Oh, well, it looks like it's switched on. I presume that means things are working. Fingers crossed. I'm here. Wait for the delay. There we are. Move that up a little bit. Oh, that's why. Great. Well, hopefully these things are working. So mysterious. Ah, there you are. No, it is live and working. There you go. Well, seems I'm underway. That's the most important thing. Okay, let's get started. I've been painting peppers recently. I'll show you a few. I'll put my gloves on first because they're all still wet. There it is. Yeah, the peppers are quite fun. There's a couple of these. There's one. And there's another. Yeah, so that's a couple of my pepper paintings. This one is clearly a lot brighter. But you know, different moods, different feels. Here I have 3 in the little plastic sleeve that they arrive in when you buy them in a supermarket, which shouldn't. Should get them at the grocer's, but I didn't. There you go. I might try for a different colour behind. Not sure about how to do it. I was wondering about maybe a sort of little accent colour or something. But yeah, I quite like all the colour being in the peppers themselves, so that's quite neutral. If you go a bit darker behind, that might be effective. Think of that. Yeah, maybe one little bit darker. And I can always add a bit more light and colour to it as I go along. But the main thing, the main interesting thing, is going to be the plastic. And that being the right shape is going to be key. That's an interesting shape. I can see some of the stalks, I can see some of the forms, and some of the reflections as well. So this should be a bit of fun. And it'll fit quite nicely, real size, into this here. What have you? Canvas format. Do a little refresh. Don't break everything. There you are. So if you're stopping by to have a look, do drop me a line. It's me or me lonesome again. So I've got a few leftover colours from previous paintings, which are, turns out, all drying up a bit. So let's put some dark red there. Let's mix them up all together. It's got a little bit of opacity in it. What else have we got? Some orange, some pink, to avoid any lumps and things. There's an orangey red there. So I might try and turn this colour up a little bit. Have a bit of fun with it. Oh, the lights are all okay. That's still wet paint. So I can put them to one side. Yeah, that could be useful. What about this? Yeah, that's still wet as well. So I've got a few neutrals around that side. This is, that's pretty much on its way out. That's some burnt sienna. Yeah, so we'll have that off. So I'm gonna clean my palette first, I think. Although I might, no, maybe I'll do a bit of drawing first. Oh, I'm not sure. Right, there's a bit of blue left over here. I think I'm going to do the underpainting in blue. This will give the other colours something to react against. So let's put that here. And just do a quick. Oh, plenty of red stuff left on that brush. I'm running from one thing to another, so didn't even clean my brushes properly. The shame. Oh, a terrible shame of it all. There. Okay, now if I think of it from this as a composition, I've got this shape at the middle to this shape out here. Dang, I know I've done this arrangement before. Ah! And it didn't work before because of the colour I used. I did some onions and it was just awful. But that happens sometimes. You win some, you lose some, as they say. So if I divide this up now, yellow, red, maybe in there somewhere. And then the green one in here, put a bit of shape in it. This will happen pretty quickly, a bit of drawing. Oh, interesting. Right. Okay, load of shadow in that. And then that plastic along the top. I'm taking these out of the fridge, so I'll get a bit of condensation and things like that. All these ways that the light gets interrupted. That plastic wraps around. There's a bit down here. And that kind of works. There's a few sort of forms and shapes and what have you. Yeah, this is a rough idea there. I think that could be quite nice, actually. There's a bit of blank behind. There's a bit of reflection below. If I think ahead to those reflections, I'm going to be thinking there's a extra dark bit there, and that's going to sort of travel out. And I don't want the reflections to be very obvious. So that'll do. What about here? Again, not an awful lot Nice bit of barcode along the bottom of there. Have a think about where that's going to be. Maybe further over here. That's going to reflect down here. No, I could move the whole lot up a bit. If I'm going to do it, now would be the time to do it. I think I will. I think it's too much in the middle here. I'm going to move the whole lot up, and now I'm going to get a bit of extra blue. The last bits of blue out from this little pile of cobalt hue. It'll be a bit darker. Let's go again. Let's move that far up. Too much here. Right. Okay. Homing in on it now. Oh, message. Do you have? I know. No messages. There is someone watching. Okay, this is a very sort of subtle change. But it will be meaningful overall. Bring this up here, bring up that shadow at the bottom as well. And under there. A bit of dark in here. It's going to be roughly the same place, but we'll also see the top of that. We'll also see the top of this. Oh yeah, it's going to be roughly where the... Okay, bits of darker green and then the shadow under here. And that green pepper there. Is that going to be enough? It should be, yes. There's some hint at where the stalks are going to be as well, sort of around there. These other things are just going to be a bit of noise, I think, but yeah, there'll be a shadow over here. Buff back a little bit, and then reflections, which are going to be something like that. You'll be able to see that stalk going the other direction. A little bit at the top of it. A bit of extra shadow in there. Hit that back a bit. There you are. Plastic is wrapped tight to the red one. It sticks out here. Okay, I think I'm finding my way roughly to the big shapes. Maybe that'll go a little bit higher. Not worrying too much about it just yet. Okay, all right. I'm going to start fiddling if I'm not careful. Just before I put this away, there's a few other things. So there's this stalk that comes around. There's also a little bit of plastic that sticks out to the edge. Okay. I've got this grey colour behind. Well, I've got a bit of extra blue on the brush. A bit of red in it. A bit more of the blue. And this is all before I clean the palette, which is coming. Last bit of yellow ochre. That can go as well. Oh, that's a pretty good version of that colour, which is barely different to the grey, but let's pop some of that in the places that it goes. It'll make more sense when the colours for the peppers are in as well. In the meantime, it's just lumps. Yeah, a bit of that in there. There'll be places where it gets darker and lighter and subtle changes, but I've kind of got a starting point. This is almost invisible at the moment, this colour I'm putting on, but and that's foreground. It's going to be a bit lighter. We'll probably put a bit of this in. I haven't put any red in there yet. Okay. Where else? A little dash of it in there. Yeah, hopefully this will make sense in a bit when it all starts to sort of go on. Next thing I think I might do. Oh no, I'm not finished with that yet. That's a bit of that. There's just going to be a bit in here. And this will give us a surface for the subsequent paint to mix in with. Obviously that's not the final colour for that. What else am I going to need? I've got some of this dark red. I'm going to put some reasonably strong colours in at the beginning, but not really strong. We'll turn them up afterwards. So if I get some of this red I've already got, let's just sort of put that in there. Nice deep red. There's going to be some down here as well. Maybe a bit in there. Go across to a slightly brighter red. Put some of that in here. Actually not crimson enough. This is pretty intense, but I'm only putting it on quite thinly. Do a bit of that. What about this? So I'm just kind of jotting in roughly where the red goes. That overlaps with the yellow there. That's okay. Placeholder, fine. Some other little bits of red just in the packaging, which is interesting. So I've already got an idea of where that barcode goes. So to pop a bit under there won't hurt. Anywhere else? No. Good. The yellow's interesting. This yellow over here. Pop a bit of the red in it, make it a bit brown. Not going to be low chroma enough. Yeah. Make sure that goes over here somewhere. Not to wake up. This is very transparent at the moment, but I'll just make some of those shapes. It's going to go there, so we'll go across there. It's just to see, I mean, just scrubbing it in so I can see the shapes and organize them by color rather than thinking about things like tones and stuff just yet. And the green, that's going to be interesting. I use the last of this blue, just put some yellow straight in it. Needs to be bluer, but I'm pretty much run out of blue, so I'll have to, this is very much a placeholder than this colour. Definitely on the blue side of things. There's so much darker bits to go in, but we'll figure them out as we go along. Yeah, nothing much more I can do with that without mixing a new colour. I'll just put a bit of red on in the background just to darken it. There we are. Great. That'll probably work for some of those shadows as well. Some of these. Yeah, I'll do it. And a bit in there. Maybe even warm it up a little bit more. Especially for that bit. That's going to have to be darker. Okay, so I've kind of got a rough idea of what goes where. And I'm going to have to do some serious mixing. So the next thing for me to do is to clean off this palette and prepare the next one. But I have got some lovely pinks there. Let's put them over here with this. What's that? Some blues and purples. This can all go. That's my red I mixed earlier. Yeah, this can all go. That, yeah. Yeah, that's going. Yeah, forget it. Oh, that's interesting. Right. I might have to put that bright red somewhere. So I guess I'll clear this whole area first. Yeah, don't need any of that. Don't know what that's doing even. Be gone. Come back to that. Ugh. All down here. Yeah, lovely job. Okay, so what am I going to put out? I've got plenty of white, got my yellow, got an orange. Probably enough red there to do what I need to do. I'm missing blues and greens. Blues, I think I'm going to go with that cobalt again. That's a useful little colour. Ah. What did I do with all of my paint? There it is over here. These are the three I need. You have some cobalt blue. It's just cobalt blue hue, so there's more than one pigment in it, but nothing here is very blue, so I don't have to worry about that. It's mostly ultramarine and Prussian blue, basically, mixed together with a little bit of white in it. I'll have a bit of Viridian. And let's have some burnt sienna down here. Bit of earth. Okay, might get some mixing white going as well, actually. Presuming that there is some in the bag. Nope. What am I out of then? There's another tube of it up here somewhere. There's some. Oh, what else have I got? Oh, there's a bit left in there. Well, there's a backup tube here if I need it, but to be honest, this will probably be enough. At least it would be if I could get the tube open. Ah, that hurt. Oh, come on. No, that's going under hot water. Oh, loosened that up. Yeah, you do need to have some patience painting. So it might just take 5 minutes just to open a tube of paint. Okay, cool. Couple of messages. Let's see who have we got with us today. Let's put some of this out. Oh, look at that. It's a bit of mixing white. Who have we got joining us this evening? Mr. Smeaton Little Lighthouse. Are my videos flipped? But yeah, no, they're not flipped. I am left-handed. Yes, and I do. Yes, Josie, you're right. I do like the challenge. But it's quite possible it will all end in disaster. So that's part of the fun, isn't it? Yes, the left-handed thing. It's an interesting thing. It's as a really boringly conventional human being. It's my last chance to belong to a minority. Otherwise, this. Yeah. So one day, I mean, no one talks about it now, but one day people will sympathise with the plight of left-handers, particularly when they consider how people used to use circular saws, all that kind of thing. Yeah, where's all the left-handed pianos? It's like no one cares, isn't it? But yes, it's I read a book about sidedness years ago, and it was really interesting, and it contained lots of different ideas about the effects of it, in terms of how you prioritize different things, and how different sort of hemispheres of your brain are prioritized in different ways, and it's not just handedness, you know. With our sidedness goes across the board. You know, everyone's got a favoured foot and a favoured eye to look through a telescope, and a favoured ear to, you know, listen, you know, to a headphone sort of thing. Someone proffers you a headphone to have a listen to something. Which ear would you put it in? You know, and we don't really think about it, but we do tend to repeat ourselves. Yeah, there was this whole book with all this interesting stuff, and then pretty much on the last page, the writer, you know, esteemed doctor, postulated that everybody should be right-handed. That's the plan. That's the plan that's sort of built into your, you know, your human nature. And if you're not right-handed, it's probably because of neurological damage at birth, which, you know, like an encouraging end to the whole thing. But actually, it does kind of make some sense. It's interesting that there's predominant sides that show up again and again in human beings, that most people are right-handed, and as a result, it does suggest that something's gone wrong somewhere. Now, of course, human beings are fragile, especially when they're babies, and if a baby is sort of, you know, dropped on its head or whatever, and part of its brain is damaged, then another part will just take over. But once those sort of pathways are established, if the same thing happened as an adult, it would be, you know, far more serious, and they wouldn't just recover. You certainly notice, because obviously there was a thing that was there that's now absent. But whereas before a child learns language, if the language part of their brain is damaged, a different bit of the brain will take over, and it's quite reasonable to suspect that that's kind of what's happened with left-handed people, is that the left hemisphere would be dominant. Something's happened, you know, possibly, you know, with the infant's soft heads and the trauma of birth, and the right hemisphere's taken over, and so it's all right now, so I've got this. But as people may or may not be aware, different hemispheres of the brain are tasked with different functions. So it means that the bit of you that's in charge is different in its operation to the bit of you that would be in charge if you were right-handed. And obviously, if you look at any effective person, they're probably using both sides of their brain, not just one. And I think that's really what we should aim for. But to understand how there's sort of, or to have an insight into how there's sort of ways of doing things outside of the conventional is a gift given to the left-hander, because we're in a right-handed world. So you get to see things with a slightly different perspective. Ah, Sarah's here. Hello. Oh, Jason. Right. Oh, it's very nice to have you back, Jason. And you never noticed I was left-handed. Well, okay, cleaned some brushes. I'm just sort of fussing at the moment. I recognise that. This is partly, it is all preparation for getting my head around what it is I'm going to be doing. I'm going to put these brushes down, and I'm just going to mix some colours. And I'm going to start with a mixing white and do these, quite like these greys. I'll add some colour to them later on, but to begin with, I'm just going to go with greys. There's a bit of white on the knife. I'm going to mix a black here, some burnt sienna, and some cobalt blue. It should give me a nice warm neutral. A little bit more blue, a little bit, just a little bit. Well, I'm glad you found me through YouTube, Jason. It's the direction I'm trying to go. If anyone's watching on Facebook, get off that disastrous sinking ship of a social media experiment and get on YouTube, which is still relatively egalitarian and honest in its way, I guess. I deleted my Twitter account the other day. I kind of forgot that I had one. I never used it because writing, I mean, who needs that? So so yeah, I posted a couple of pictures on it years ago and just never followed it up. And then I was suddenly reminded by something that, of course, it's under new ownership. And I thought, oh yeah, I could just get rid of it. I kind of forgot. So yeah, YouTube's the way forwards with this now. That's a nice grey. I'm going to go a little bit darker. It's quite hard to pin down exactly what sort of colour this is. I'll pop a tiny bit more blue in that. I'll mix this darker one next to it. Is that too blue? Maybe a little bit. There we go. Have some fun with that. Right, sort of a warm and a cool of greys. That's all good. And yeah, so other things about sidedness. It's nice to have a prompt to babble. I haven't got anyone here asking me questions at the moment. So this is true stream of consciousness, talking to myself in an otherwise empty room, with absolutely no knowledge of whether anyone's listening with any interest whatsoever, or but this is a way of me documenting for myself the stuff that I do. Before I start applying this, I'm going to really try and pin down these other colours. Kind of got the reds. They're sort of there. I can always mix more of them. This green is going to be a really tricky one. And I'm going to get a bit of mixing white. I'm going to get a bit of yellow to bring over here to add in as I need. So now I've got blue on the knife. And blue and yellow is going to make quite a strong green. But I want a reasonably strong green. But it all needs to be quite dark. Now another thing I could do is use Viridian and then add raw sienna to it, effectively a dark red. So I might have a little try at that just on the side. Let's see which one works better. That's Viridian. That's incredibly intense. If I put burnt sienna in it, it's still going to be really green. It's going to go very dark. It's going to go a bit duller. Is that more like the green I want? It's very blue. It's still quite a sharp colour. No, it kind of needs to be warmer than that. You know what I didn't put any more out of was yellow ochre. I could get the tube out, but actually I could also kind of mix my own. Just burnt sienna, white, some lemon yellow. Nothing like lemon yellow. Let's pop a bit of that in there, see what it does. That's a bit more like it. Yeah, it's using this to warm up the green. Feels quite odd, but yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good colour. I need a slightly darker one than that. Shall we use some Viridian, some alizarin? Still very green. Put a bit more burnt sienna in there. Dull it down a little bit. Yeah, it's a greeny black. It's still really green, isn't it? Let's see what this does. That's good. Still very green, but it's a nice dull black, that. So I've got a neutral black, green black. This, whatever on earth that is. Let's see what this is doing. Yeah, let's put some more yellow in there. Not the colour at all, actually. Though I can kind of see it in some of the reflections, so I'll keep a bit of that just as a reference, because it will help me approach the actual colour. Be disciplined, clean the knife, then collect more yellow. Okay, what's this doing? Is that too yellow? Oh no, it'll work for bits. They are. Let's stick a load in here as well then. Yeah. Take some of that. Okay, I've got some greens now, which I feel are in the kind of in the ballpark. It's darker and put yet more yellow in it. Yeah. Okay, that's my greens. And the yellow is going to be really odd. I think I'm going to have to put some more of this out. What was I talking about? Oh yes, so the sidedness thing. So a really good example in relation to art, sidedness. And I was talking to a few people about this week. It came up a few times. And that is, oh, hang on, something Jason will be pleased to see. Still going. Settling in, Moggins. Where was I? Let's get that in place. Yeah, Betty Edwards, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. It was a very successful drawing book, and for good reason. It was very well done. Most of what was in it was, like any drawing book, fairly kind of familiar exercises and sort of standard, art school fair stuff people have been doing for years in one way or the other, which are all exercises that are prompts to seeing in a different way and collecting visual information in a way that isn't maybe immediately natural but is more reliable. Yeah, the Betty Edwards book introduced it in the context of, oh, that did nothing, did it? What was then some fairly new research that had been developed about brain hemispheres and how they have different roles. Most of the data was linked to it was an operation that used to be done, and possibly still is, for people who developed really severe forms of epilepsy, like crushingly horrible, ruin your life epilepsy, tens of fits a day, and just dreadful business. But they found that they could dramatically improve people's quality of life with an equally drastic operation, which severed the corpus callosum, which is the membrane in between the hemispheres of the brain that allows them to communicate with one another. And although it was drastic, it was also effective, and gave a lot of people a much better life than they had before. But it also gave not exactly psychologists, but neurologists and people who study the brain a wonderful well of experimental data. And it was kind of fascinating what happened, about how much they discovered about how the brain orders information and uses different locales within the brain to perform different functions. Specifically things like language, logical reasoning, things like that were quite well pinpointed. The Betty Edwards book was all framed within the idea of there being a left brain and a right brain, and the left brain, which is in charge of your right side. Obviously, for some reason, these things swap over just to confuse scientists. I imagine they're all having a laugh when they designed that. That part of you can't draw. It will draw a stick man and then not know why it's rubbish, and then be self-critical, and then go, oh, don't do that, that was rubbish, and then sit down and then make you do exactly the same thing again. And as a left-hander, right brainer, there's a kind of what would you call it? Disposition towards a more lateral and unconventional ordering of information. I'm not very good at lists. I'm not very good at there being a specific order to things. There is a sense that I have that everything kind of exists at once, and it's all connected in lots of different ways. And it's sort of interesting, but it means that when it comes to drawing something, I definitely I feel like I have an advantage, and I think I understand that more now having learned to teach. And that was something I definitely actually had to learn. It was never very natural for me. But there was certainly a bit of a journey in discovering what was going on inside other people's heads when they were doing these different tasks. And let's put some of this yellow in and see what it does. Okay, I'm homing in on where it's most yellow here. Yeah, so that's been deeply fascinating. But the most interesting for me was effectively doing experiments on people, not in a bad way, but yeah, there was some. If you could really pinpoint a task that is used in drawing about how we process information and that kind of thing. Honestly, some bewildering things that were bewildering to me, perhaps completely normal to other people. So I once did a class, and the little tagline was "Anyone can learn to draw," which I stand by. I believe that, but it turns out not everyone will. And yeah, one of the sort of most visually disabled people I ever had, who it was very hard to fathom exactly what he was thinking. You'd have very simple instructions for a task which everybody could do. Maybe it'd go badly, like, to begin with, because this stuff's easy the first time, but you could at least follow the instructions and go, I wonder what happens when I do this, and find out what you get wrong and find out what you could improve and all that kind of thing. But he had this override switch in his brain which just took charge, which just said, no, we're going to do it this way. The brain has decided this way is better, and it would take over, and he'd just do something utterly bizarre and seemingly unconnected to the task that was given. And when some people say, I can only draw a stick man, in a way what they're saying is, I will only draw a stick man. And like they can't override that part of themselves that would make the stick man decision, however much they tried not to. It's, yeah, deeply fascinating stuff. I find it very interesting. I'm into brush mixes already because I want to get that bit of dark down there and here. I'm not going to get too caught up in this. Let's go with the green now, shall we? This is my main green. Let's see what it does. It's still way too... Okay, I'm going to have to mix some black with that. Yeah, so there are these sort of advantages of being able to go straight into, what would you call it? Yeah, the kind of abstract relationships. It's an advantage with music as well. I think is all the same bits of your brain, really. Yeah, it's just always been kind of normal, just obvious in some ways, and yet give me what might seem like a completely pedestrian task that anyone else could just get on with, and I will find a way to muck it up. I'll have an idea, and then it's all over. So I'm starting to see some things already. I'm going to put in a bit of this dark green just to... We'll have a bit there, and a bit here, and a bit here, and there. Stalk will come in later. I'll deal with that later on. So there's that rather crisp dark green, and then we get to here, and there's this far duller green colour. I'll borrow a bit of this and a bit of the sort of browny black. And then in here, yeah, it doesn't have quite the same power. Is that? Let's pop a bit of that in there. Let's see if we can go a bit between the two. Let's put some dark edges on that shape. Yeah, so there's peppers have this hexagonal shape, which is rather fun. Or perhaps not hexagonal. You can kind of see it in the lids. But maybe it's 5. It might be 5. Actually, I think it's 5. How ignorant of me. Yeah, it's 5-sided shape. Pentagonal. Could be to do with the golden ratio. Who knows? The Fibonacci fruit. Are they a fruit? Okay. There's some shadows in here. May as well get straight in with them. Oh, what's under there? Okay, that's a start. Back towards some of the lights that I had. That's quite right, but let's put some of that in there. Okay, so let's go back to maximum green, and that's going to turn up around the edges here. Sort of, are they lobes? Maybe it's all this talk about brains, but now I've got it in my head that peppers have lobes. There's different sections of them. Right, I'm not going to overthink this. Once there's paint on the whole thing, that's in. Okay, so the thing that's going to be really interesting here is, let's do this little stalk as well while we're at it, just as a placeholder. Yeah, it's going to be a bit more crisp, some of these colours. Let's pop a bit of that on there. Yeah. So this is quite sort of 5-sided, that bit in the middle. Probably has a name. Be interested to know what that is. Let's do the same thing over here. It's going to be, is that too green? I don't know, I think it's okay. I think I'll get away with that. A bit dark around there. Maybe that's too dark. I can always lighten it up as I go. Okay, any other greens? No, I don't think so. Maybe a little bit in the shadows down here. Right, big brush. Let's get some of these colours on the background, and including some of the edges on this. Yep, still the same colour pretty much. Okay, there's lots of sort of blues and reflected pinks and things in this plastic. I'm not going to overdo it. It's the same colour that already went on. Let's put just a bit more of this paint that we can move around. And yeah, maybe that's not dark enough. Yeah, a few different things to be found here. Yeah, let's get all of that in. I can pull the other colours out the top of it afterwards. What about here? That's lighter below. Let's just make a lighter version of this. Let's see what it does. That slightly darker version might be really useful for the reflections and the other colours. Okay, start on the dark side. There you are. Extra bit in there. What's this doing? Yeah, a bit of that in there. And keep this really, really simple. Actually, that light works quite well. Other places where this might go. That's interesting. Maybe a bit in there and a bit in here. That's got sort of more blue and purple into it, but I can keep this. Keep this handy on the palette. Yeah. And I hope that this does what I want it to do. The types of marks I make are going to be crucial to whether this plastic looks plasticky or not. While I go, I'm going to get a bit of this dark. And let's make a red shadow colour, shall we? It's going to be really subtle. There we go. When this moves across, we can have a bit in there. It'll be this rosier one. Let's have a bit of that at the edge. We get some of that and a bit more white. This is a brush mix now. Let's put a bit of that orangey colour in it. And a bit more white. There we go. Cracking. If I can do the same thing with the yellow without much work. No, not really. It needs to be duller. But again, still a brush mix. That's interesting. Let's get some of this brown, let's put some orange in it. And let's put some of that under here. See, still not dark enough. Well, maybe that works though. Should probably be okay. Yeah, bring a bit of that into here as well. do for the moment. And ooh, the green. So I can progress from the yellow to the green quite easily. It's going to have a bit of this. Quite a lot of that shadow. Hey, that kind of does it. I can get a few extra darks in there as well as I go. There's a lot of things to sort of try and hang on to with your eye. Namely the reflections of these labels, and it's actually going to come down. Oh no, because that comes across. That's roughly the right place. One's going to guide another. There you go. And the highlights go onto that. It should work a treat. Extra bit of green just at the edges. Let's put a bit of that on. A bit in here. A bit of dark green, that shadow maybe. See what I can get away with. Not that much. Yeah. Ooh, what else? See, now I'm already starting to get a little bit lost. That's not right at all. First of all, I'm using random bits of the palette to mix a one-off color because I've just seen it. So that's no good. So I'm going to discipline myself, pull back from that and say, what actually needs to go in next? And actually, that's not a bad color. Does it work for the label here? I think it does, yeah. It's odd how so it can feel completely off. Same thing here. We'll put the highlights in afterwards. But first things first, let's just get some shapes on there. Especially around there. Once the highlights are on, they'll make that work. Anywhere else where that kind of stuff goes? I don't think so. It's rather this bluish color over here. And kind of put that into the there. That works. It's browny yellow, which also kind of goes in here. No, it's not dark enough. Darker. That'll do it. That's as much as that needs to be. Yeah, actually comes further down. Okay. Right, there's some things here. There's a darker shadow color here, but it's still like light showing through. Borrow a little bit of that pink. So these little satellites of color are starting to sort of appear on the palette. Okay, let's put in some of those shadows, especially the pinky shadows, where they go. There's some. A lot of them are very subtle, so I'm not going to go too dark too soon. He says, you know what? If I take some of this, I take a bit of that red, a tiny bit of blue, just to give it some purpliness. I reckon this will do for a lot of these sort of darker shapes in here. So the plastic, the language of the plastic is going to rely, is that darker enough? Yeah, because the background will get lighter. There we are. Some extra shadows in there. Where else? No. Let's go with the darkest shadows to begin with. So we're quite blue here. It's going to go there. Some of it's going to go in here as well. It's not very thick paint, but it's thick enough to sort of make a deliberate mark. Okay. What's that doing? What about a bit in here as well? Sort of wanders across before it changes colour. That's good. So hopefully this will be quite quick. Now it works well there. So a few of these little sort of streaks and sort of jagged lines. So in there. So a little bit darker here. Even a little bit bluer. There you are. What else is that? Sort of in here. And this is really just pure looking. Yeah, a bit under that. There's probably bits of raw canvas here still showing through as well. There's a few darker shadows in there. It's not going to get darker than the actual. That's going ahead, getting ahead of myself. Pop a bit of that in there. That works. That's going to come around. Yeah. Where else? Where else can I see it? We'll go ahead and make some proper dark and make it a bit bluer. It's going to be things like a shape like that. We already did that bit, but I'll do it again. Already done that. Already done this bit. Getting carried away here. Where else? Let's have an extra bit of dark in there, because it needs it. And where else? Let's have an extra bit of dark in there. Don't get too carried away. There's some stuff going on in here. I'm not quite sure what, so I'll just put this grey in the meantime. And then, yeah. Now, I was heading towards the shadow here, wasn't I? Let's bring some of that up. It's not going to be that yellow. It's going to have quite a harsh shape. Some lights in there. Right, this is fine. There we are. I'm going to get another brush on the go. Heading towards a pause now, I can feel it. That's quite a bit of concentration. But if I go back to my light colour at the front and pop a bit of that in there, maybe a little bit along there, You go back to this middling one. There you are. How's that doing? Not entirely sure. Okay, it's starting to show up. There's a certain amount of plasticiness to it. And this will also, once the highlights are on and a few of those descriptive shapes, now obviously from where the camera is, you're seeing different reflections to me, but I might move my head over because actually they're really interesting. Now while I've got this pale colour on, I can do some little bits of that. So I can pop a few bits in. And I'm also going to be able to find some other colours. Are there any other places where this does a thing? I can actually go across like that. Okay, maybe a few bits here. A few lights in there. Not going to overly fuss about that. And come in. I've still got this very heavy sort of black on this brush. Yeah, I have. It's going to come right across. Is that an edge? About in here? Yeah, a little bit. What about this in here? Yeah, I'll do something. Okay. A bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that there. Okay, right, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to add a bit of red to this just to give it some pinkiness and a bit of white to keep it the same tone. I'm going to put some bits of colour in there and they're kind of going to go like that. Where else? There we are. That go across. Where else can they go? So it's going to be some here and there. May as well just go ahead and see what this does. That's a mark that's going to blend on the surface. That's going to have a highlight on top of it later on. This is mixing nicely on the surface, so I can put brighter colours in around this. This should give me a nice bit of, you know what, I'm going to get a bit of that red and a bit of this darker grey as well. So I hope I don't run out of palette here before I'm done, but that's going to have this whole shape under here, and then it's going to mix in, blend in with that. And travel underneath. Okay, what else? Again, rosier, but not completely completely washed out. Oh. So I'm definitely losing track of time passing now. A little slab of light there which joins onto that, so that's right. A little bit on the edge here. Going on in here. Actually, I will carry on with this and put some of these brighter reds in. I'm going to go in here and travel down into that. A little bit in there as well. And it's going across a little bit of maximum red here. Is that going to do it? Yeah. Even a little bit of alizarin in this, just to darken it up even more. Yeah, let's try that. Nice. Extra double red. Okay, that might do for that. I've got to go back. No, one last bit just across the top. It's there, just to give that nice kind of shape, a nice edge. Right, let's take that off again. Go back to this. Okay, what have I got? I've got this sort of long streak that goes across. Got that ready for the highlight. I can put in a few little sort of sharp edges, just like that. Others will be in other colours, so I'm not going to fuss about them too much. Does all the rest of it stay? The rest of it pink? Not really. And that might be a reflection from the pepper itself. Okay. I won't go all the way to bright highlights just yet. Maybe I should have another brush to do bright highlights and add them in as I go along. So maybe we'll try that. I'm going to give it a tiny little bit of yellow, just the tiniest bit, just to differentiate it. It's quite a cool light, but I have to warm these things up a bit. There they are. There we are. Spread that out. Keep that highlight sharp. It's going to be the brightest highlight. Some here and there. And where else? A couple of little flicks. Little flicks down here. Hey, there we go. There's another one. dab in there. No, that'll do for that. Okay, it's starting to be in plastic, isn't it? I've still got that original colour to get into the background, which I probably will warm up a bit. Yeah, a couple of little, tiny little frilly bits here. Zigzaggy shapes, just that creased. Okay, I'm not going to corrupt this with any other colour. Keep that as my white. I go back here. That's still too much. Sort of wrap that plastic around. Okay, I'm fiddling now. Oh, tell you what there is though. That's rather fun. Okay. Let's do the same thing with the green. I've finished with the yellow, so hopefully I will have got the hang of it by then. Let's get some of this. Let's lighten this up. Add a little bit of sort of beigey colour. Let's see what happens if we do that. Nice. Going with the brightest bits first. Right around here. That's too much. That's okay. What else? Yeah, that works. And then this all mix in on the surface. Slightly darker. Okay. So that's going to have a sort of a plasticky effect. That's going to travel across. This is all mixing very nicely on the surface. It's helping me out quite a bit. There's this whole sort of swathe of this green mixing. There's that plastic end. Hard to tell, but yeah. I'm going to do that with the green highlight. I think I might do. Maybe that's just in front of the green. Okay, there's another one here. So it is encased. So if I bring that across like that. Other than that, there isn't a lot. I can go back to some of those pale purpley colours now, just to carry on what happens here. Maybe I'll go a bit lighter than that. There we are. I got rather involved in this. I've completely lost track of time, which is usually a good sign. Yeah, it joins up here. This has got that bit going across the top. Yeah, I don't want to get too caught up in sort of tiny details, but I do want to have some sense of sort of the plasticky wrappingness. That's kind of how that's going to work. That might be enough, actually. While I've got that light on, I could probably put a little bit into the there's the actual light on the pepper itself. A few variations here, which might be the pepper reflecting or other things. I'll borrow some more of that yellow and just put that in places where it needs it. Like here. And here. And a little bit in there. Ah, that's not dark enough. That's the maximum green I was talking about earlier. Still give me the contrast to the highlight over the top. Get a bit of that in there, a little bit underneath. Okay. Really, I'm doing quite a lot of guessing now. Yeah, that'll do it. A little bit of green on there, that'll help. Okay, let's do some of that. Let's use the knife, shall we? Yeah. Very yellow bits of stalk, not light enough. Maybe I can get some of that yellow in first, though. Right, now, extra bit of white. Let's see what that does. Does that describe the stalk of a pepper? I think it does. We can try a bit over here as well. Don't want to go into any more detail than that, really. I think that should be enough. Okay, last bits just to make this work. Let's do some more of these bright highlights. Now we're going to go here. If I move my head across, right, I've got all sorts of interesting stuff going on there. There's this triangle of light there. Bit of dry brush. Let's reload that. A little bit of yellow in it. Do a bit of that and then drag this across and change direction as it goes. Same thing here. There's this sort of highlight going around. Already did that bit there. That's nice. We do a few bits of, I'll just use a brighter yellow here. To create some of those other creases in the plastic. Make it very bright on the other side. That should help. Have a little bit of that up here as well. A little bit in there. Oh, careful now. Yeah, a bit of extra intensity of colour can really help, really go a long way. I think I am seeing 3 peppers in plastic. And that's coming together. Last bits. Oh yeah, while that's going. That's not helping either. Okay. Nice. This orange yellow, just pop a bit in there. A little bit here. That helps. A little bit there. Right. Okay, so last bits are going to be the not super bright whites. Slightly pink, slightly grey, but still very light. I'm going to use them for the labels and what have you. So there's a bit there that makes up a label. There we are. And what else? Yeah, a bit here. A bit here. If I do it from this side, that should work. A little bit brighter on that. Now, a few of these little bits and pieces in here. And a little bit of detailing. A few little edges. That's too much. Now this background colour is going to be important too. It's possible I could have used a better background colour. A streak of that across there and across here. A little bit of light in that. In there. If I fiddle with this anymore, I don't think it's going to help it. And I am kind of seeing what I need to see. Okay. Right, it's that background colour. That's really what's going to cut it now. I'm going to warm that right up. Got a bit of this browny colour. I've got some of this grey. Let's pop some of that in. And as I do, it should make some of the colours inside the inside the plastic look darker, which will give it an extra an extra bit of help. Other thing I haven't done, some of these lights are yellowy across here, and especially across the top. Go back to that. And go a little bit darker here. We travel across the top of this. That should help it. Don't be too linear. Have a little. Hey, that's starting to come in, isn't it? All the highlights here. You know what? There's this sort of, it's like a misty sort of thing. So I'm going to give it some of that. It's going to get a bit darker nearer the edge, a bit lighter nearer the front, even more than that even. See what we can get away with. Yeah, that's good. A little condensation sort of thing. Right. Actually, quite shiny, so it's quite hard for me to see what I've done here, but that'll do it, I reckon. I can go to this rosier browner colour here at the front. That'll do. And we can do a much lighter one. Oh, is that too much yellow, or was that a blessing? Using a bit of titanium white, just to give that a bit of extra brashness. There we are. Yes, that's what I want. Hey. No, I hope that isn't the camera failing. Fingers crossed it's all still working. Put a bit of that in there. I can put a little bit in here. And I can brighten all of this up quite nicely. Yay. Yeah, that's pretty good. What else? Put a bit of that light in there. Put a little bit into here as well, just sort of. There. That should do it. No, go back to that darker one again. If I make sort of marks that go against the direction, this should be vaguely sympathetic to the crinkliness. As that works in, it'll also get a bit lighter. There we are, a bit of crinkle. A few lights to go. One is the bright highlight for the pepper there. Not quite bright enough. No, that's probably it. A little bit on the stalk. Don't need to do any more to that. One last one. Let's get our deep blacks on and get a small brush. Let's go in for my blacks. Let's pop a bit in there, just darken that down, give that bit of an edge. A little bit under here. That won't hurt. Anywhere else? A little bit in the label. A little bit in the label under there. There's a little bit in the sort of text that goes along here. This is quite a warm browny black. There's a little hint of a barcode there. There's bits of text that go in the back here, which are never going to show up, but it doesn't matter that much. Give me something. Well, I've already got my dark in there, that's fine. A little dash in there, just to give it an extra bit of depth. No. I could go ahead and do a duller red colour. Let's mix on the surface as well. Okay, I'm definitely fiddling now, so it is time to stop. Duller red. Let's do it. Last bits. It can go in there. It can go under here. Last bit of depth. Right, that's fiddling now. I'm going to sign that in this red colour, since that's what's on the brush. Hey, now if I take a step back, that's quite fun. I've rather exaggerated the scale of the plastic above. Now this might be one of those ones I come back to in an hour or two and start to see things that I should have seen before. But who knows? So the green pepper is not outside of the wrapping. No, it's all in it. Hi Michelle. Yes, particularly particularly tricky one today. Oh, well, that's lovely to see everyone. Oh, I'm still under time. So I've taken a few liberties, certainly with like the plastic packaging and stuff like that. I don't know if maybe I should take that down. Where I was down here seemed to look pretty good. Definitely, let's get a bit of that yellow. Let's just smear a bit in to there. It needs it. Bit of reflection. That's kind of what's happening in the plastic. Yeah, any more than that. Not, yeah, doesn't need anything else. Yeah, I could do extra highlights and bits and pieces, but actually, I think that'll do for now. I quite like the fact that it's a little bit cryptic. Yeah, can't see anything else that I could do to improve it. Ooh, well, let's have a little close-up look, shall we? Let's go over here. There we are. That's my little view. If I pop this out, we can have a nice little close-up. Now, I don't know. Oh, have I got all the reflections on here or not? Oh yeah, you can just about get rid of them like that. That's good. So yeah, that's where it is from where I am. And there's my painting of it. So yes, we've got red pepper, yellow pepper, green pepper. I had to go to the posh shop because Sainsbury's only had red, yellow, and then another red one. Yeah, I quite like the reflections as well. They're not immediately obvious. They're quite subtle. And the composition as well, moving it up by, centimetre was definitely the right call. It needed to be there to be comfortable because these are already sort of in the middle, so it's quite static like that. If it had been in the middle, perfectly in the middle down here instead of just up a bit, it would have lost something. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me. It's very, very nice to see little messages coming in from everyone. And yeah, I will look forward to seeing you next week with whatever I attempt to do then. I don't think I'm going to be as ambitious next week. I think that was a bit crazy, but yeah. So little cat cam moment. You're going to say hello, Muggins. Sort of halfway through having a bath. Very clean. Yeah. Yes. So I'll leave you with that. Very decorous washing. And yeah, thanks for joining me. And I'll see you soon.